With me today, if everybody, I'm sure everybody knows who you are. We have Dave Hebler. Dave, you were one of Elvis's former bodyguards. I think first things off, can you tell us maybe a little bit how you met Elvis, how you became involved in the Elvis world and the Memphis Mafia?
Um, yeah, I'll try to be brief. It's a little bit complicated, but um, let's see, it was 1972. Uh, I think somewhere in January, as I recall, I got a call from a guy by the name of George Waite. And George Waite was one of Ed Parker's black belts out of Santa Monica, California. And he called me at my studio in Glendora, California. Now, I mention that because my studio and the studio in Santa Monica was 50 miles away. Um, but it was all the way across the fat part of Los Angeles. So the one-way trip for me was 3 hours plus. If you ever been in LA traffic, you know what I mean.
Mm.
So I had to have a good reason to spend half a day driving to and forth from the studio. But anyhow, George um, informed me that he and a bunch of other black belts were getting together this coming Friday night for a workout and invited me to come and join them. And I hadn't seen these guys in quite a while. So I decided, sure, that sounds like fun. So I went. And sure enough, there we are. And we're all dressed up in our gis. We're out on the mats and we're just beating the crap out of each other, which is what we normally did. Uh, having a lot of fun doing that. And at some point in time, I noticed a commotion at the door. And I turned around and looked, and in walked, oh my God, Elvis Presley. And I'm thinking, that's Elvis Presley. What's he doing here? you know.
Mhm.
Anyhow, Elvis wandered over to the mat, and he's watching us work out. And before I know it, he's out on the mats with us, wanting to work out with us. And I'm his training partner, or dummy, as we used to call our training partners. I mean, what else would you call somebody just stand there and let you beat on them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, um, it was patently obvious that Elvis was unfamiliar with the material. But on his behalf, here's a guy stepping out on the mat with 15 or 20 black belts in a system with which he's not familiar. And that's a chore. That's a heavy chore. And I don't care
Mhm.
who you are. So kudos, for him for that. And so I tried to help him out. I worked, would show him, what we were doing and explain to him what the movements are, and basically be his punching bag. And we ended up with the training, and we're all done, and he just standing there, and Ed Parker calls me over and said, "I want you to do your wowie technique for Elvis." Now, this is a technique that I used to do. It was basically 13 different strikes that I used to be able to do in right around 2 seconds. Today, it takes me about 2 minutes, but in those days, I was really fast. So um, it, it wasn't a technique that actually worked. It was just designed to demonstrate speed and agility and coordination and timing and balance and basic fundamentals like that.
Mhm.
But it damn sure was fast. So every time I used to do that as an exhibition, people would go, wow. So that's what we named it. Wowie. It's
Wow.
called Wowie One.
Mhm.
Anyhow, later, a couple of days later, I had a call from Ed Parker saying that Elvis had called and he wants me and Ed to go out and visit with him at his home in Beverly Hills. And I went, nah, I'm kidding. Of course, I want to go look at.
Okay.
So we do. We go out there and a beautiful home, obviously. And I had never seen a home like that, frankly. Uh, Elvis came from poor roots. I'll tell you about poor roots, but nevertheless, we were just hanging out. A few of the guys were there. We're just having a good time talking and chatting and enjoying each other's company. And Elvis said, Dave, um, there's something out in the driveway, a problem that I'm going to have to take care of. He said, if you'll just sit there where you are for a few minutes, he said, I'll get back to you. And they all leave. And I'm sitting there with my thoughts, I don't know what's happening. What the heck's going on? And after a little while, I hear Elvis call, Dave, come on out here. I need your help. So I'm a little bewildered because I don't know whether he's got a problem, if there's some kind of threat,
Mhm.
situation going on or what. So I get outside and there's everybody, and they're all crowded around this Mercedes, a 1971 280 SL, beautiful car. And I said, yeah, Elvis, what's the problem? How can I help you? He said, the problem is this car. He says, it's cluttering up my driveway. And I want you to take it somewhere.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, well, where do you want me to take it? And he said, anywhere you want to go, it's your car.
Wow.
He handed me the keys and the paperwork. And I'm standing there dumbfounded, tap dancing around. I don't know what to do, what to say. I mean, this is the second time I met the car. I met the guy, and he gives me a car.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'm trying to say thank you, and I'm, hopping around. And he just started laughing, and all the other people just started laughing. And he said, enjoy your new car, Dave. And they all walked into
Wow.
the house and closed the door. And Ed Parker got in his car, and I got in my new car, and off we go. And
Wow.
that's how I met Elvis.
Wow. I mean, right off the bat, nice new car. I think I always hear stories about Elvis giving a car, and for you to like live it. I mean, I think your reaction says it all. It's, wow.
I know. It's
Hi.
amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing.
Yeah.
So we are here today. We're discussing the book Elvis What Happened. Do you mind maybe like first? So we talked about how you met Elvis. You became one of his bodyguards during the late 70s. And then towards 76, 77, you, Red West, and Sonny West got together and you wrote this book. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about how this book came to be? And we've all read the book, so we know kind of what happened in the end. So could you just tell us a little bit like what led you guys to finally release this book together?
Sure. In the first place, I got to give you a little bit of background here.
Mhm.
In the first place, we didn't write that book.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds strange since we have our name on it, right? But if you look at, I will leap to the end of the of my narration on this particular topic, and ask you to do one thing.
Mhm.
Read the cover of that book, the front cover
Yep.
and the back cover. And I have a copy of the book and I'm reading
Oh,
here
wow.
and I'm looking at all of the words that are written on that cover,
Hmm.
both front and back. And they're pretty sensational, number
Hmm.
one. And then number two, pretty nasty, not very prominent. And what I need you to understand is we never said those words.
Oh.
Those are not our words.
Hmm.
Those are the words of the writer, Steve Dunleavy, and the publishers that he worked for. And they gave the dialogue in between the covers the
Hmm.
same kind of treatment that they gave the covers. And we had absolutely no power to do anything about it. In fact, the first time I saw and Red and Sunny saw the content of this book was when it was printed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we were all astounded at the content and the way it was distorted because we were led to believe that the book was going to be fair and balanced. And basically, what we did is the three of us, we sat in a hotel room
Hmm.
for 30 days in Hollywood and we talked into a tape recorder and told stories. And 95% of those stories were fun stories. We did, all the stuff that tricks that we played on each other, the jokes we played on
Hmm.
each other, the kind of fun times we had, different kinds of tours, all the crazy ladies and the things that they did, and the good times, and also the bad times. So when we finally read the book, and I'll tell you how we got the book is that the publisher sent us 50 copies apiece of the book.
Okay.
We sat down in a curb on a sidewalk in Beverly Hills or Hollywood actually, and we autographed those copies for each other.
Oh,
So somewhere in the world there are 150 copies of the original book
okay.
that were signed by all three of us. I'm told that those books, particular books, are worth like 5 grand or more. A lot of money. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't understand it, but that's the way it is.
Hmm.
And I hate that book.
Wow.
I hated it then, and I hate it
Mm.
now. I got this book in front of me. I only read it once,
Wow.
and that one time when it came up, I have no desire to read any part of it. And I was kind of glancing at it, because I know it's going to be the subject of tonight's talk. And I'm kind of astounded at how distorted things were put together in the book. I'm not trying to give it up any excuses. I'm just telling you what it was. And then with that, I'll let you talk. Go ahead.
I mean, so I always understood that it was more you all telling your story to this writer and him putting it together. But with that said, I've always been kind of able to decipher between the quotes that are given by you guys, the three of you, and what was kind of put together by author. And for me, that's why I feel like as an Elvis fan, I can kind of decipher the two. And to me, that's why it's kind of one of my it's a top 10 one of my favorite books because I love reading the good times from the early days from Red West or you guys in the 70s and you're touring. And I think it especially kind of hits home. You have the very ending and it kind of sums up Elvis's life where it's like he had all this, but at the same time, he didn't know if he had a friend in the world. And because of all of it, he didn't know if people were sticking around because of his fame, his money, or because they truly loved him. And just like the end, where it's like, I just hope he reads this and hope he makes a change. And I think for me, that's what I get from this book, not the gossip side of it. And is that kind of the main goal? I feel like when you guys set out to record this, the audio tapes to be made into a book.
We actually had a couple of reasons for doing the book. And understand that I am pretty much not going to talk about Red and Sonny
Yeah.
and their stuff.
Hmm.
I'm going to talk about my stuff,
Yeah,
how I felt, and
absolutely.
how it affected me.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, it's kind of weird how I felt at the time, how I felt at the time. Um, in the first place, um, the manner in which we were fired was an insult in any way, shape, and form. You know, we were given 2 days' notice and 1 week's pay. Elvis left town in the dead of night and basically ran away and left the nasty business up to his father,
Hmm.
you know, to do it, who lied to us like it was going out of style. You know, called us in there and told us that they were having financial difficulties and they had to cut down on expenses. And unfortunately, because of that, they were going to have to let me go. And of course, Red and Sunny. Well, if that statement was true, then why did they hire people to replace us?
Hmm.
It's just crazy. So the manner in which I mean, look at it this way. Did I leave town in the dead of night and have my father fire Elvis, put him out on the street with no way of making a living or and feeding his family? Did I do that to Elvis? No. He did that to me. So who's the victim?
Hmm.
You know, I understand folks, fans in particular, they don't want to hear something they perceive as negative about somebody that they love and care for. Nobody wants to hear that. But by the same token, there were reasons behind us doing the book or wanting to go public because we tried internally. We knew that as soon as we decided to do something or try to do something to halt the drugs, a world of hurt was going to come our way. But we did it anyhow.
Hmm.
We stood up. and we suffered for it. And here we are 50 years later, and I'm still getting hate mail. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but we stood up. Nobody else did. I promise you, nobody else did. Nobody lifted a finger to try to help Elvis except the three of us. Regardless of what they tell you today, they all tried to help. They're lying, they're lying like fools because they never did a single thing. And when everything that we tried to do failed and we were fired, then we tried to do, we thought, well, we'll try one more time. If we go public, this is going to force Elvis to take a look, maybe, take a look at
Mm-hmm.
his life and what he was doing to himself. And maybe, just maybe, he'll try to seek out the kind of help that he needed to have because he certainly did. Elvis was a drug addict. And being a drug addict is a nightmare of epic proportions. And for the loved ones and people that care, I don't know if you've got anybody in your family or somebody you care about who's got a drug problem. But answer me this, if you do, wouldn't you do everything in your power to try to help that person?
Yeah, I would.
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we did. And we were fired for our trouble. Now, I'll say aside,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not, I don't think it's part of the discussion here, but I was not fired because of my involvement with the book. That was not the reason why I was fired. But that's a topic for a different conversation, you know. But nevertheless, um, we had three reasons, and I just tried to explain the three reasons. One,
Mm-hmm.
we were upset at the manner in which we were fired. Two, money. I mean, we had families. I had a wife and four teenage daughters.
Um,
How in the hell am I going to take care
mhm.
of my family? Tough. So
Well,
those
I
are
think,
uh, those are the facts.
yeah. I mean, I think that clears up a lot of it about what people have been wondering about this book for, like you said, over 50 years. But maybe like on a more positive note, so you guys are sitting around, you're in a hotel room in Hollywood and you're recording these stories. What was it like? Were you guys, did it bring up good memories, obviously? Would it bring up bad memories? What was kind of the mood while you were doing this, like reliving history together?
If I heard you right, you're
Mhm.
asking me what we felt about when we were recording, doing the
Yeah,
recording.
like tape recording to, for the book.
Yeah, we sat in, like I said, we sat in a hotel room in Hollywood for
Mhm.
30 days. 30 days. And we told stories.
Mhm.
And 95% of those stories were fun stories. I mean, it really were. I mean, we
Mhm.
were laughing and joking about the fun times and, you know, um, and 95, like I said, 95% of everything that we were talking about were good times.
Mhm.
And then when we read the book, none of them are there.
Yeah, which is
We
obviously
were
very frustrating.
naive. We believed the publishers and we believed the writer when they bullshitted and lied to us about, the content and the intent,
Mhm.
but we were helpless. We couldn't do anything. Once you, like right now, I'm talking to
Yeah,
you. Who owns the right to these recording?
correct. Yeah.
Who owns them?
I would have to
You.
say, yeah, me.
You do. That's right. Do
Mhm.
I own any of it? Nope.
Mhm.
The only one who
Wow.
can market and make money off of this recording is you. Even though I'm the main topic of this recording, I get butkus, nothing. Well, that's the same way with all media content.
Yeah.
Is that even remotely fair?
No.
No, of course it's not. But that's the way of the world. That's the way it
Mhm.
is. We found out the hard way.
Mhm.
We had no power. Nothing we said made any difference because they didn't care.
So then maybe my next question is, if say you had complete control over what was being told in this book, how would you make it different? What would you write about today?
I'm sorry.
If you could control what was in the book, what would you write about today instead of the way they drive the narrative back in 1977?
Um, I don't know. I've only read the book once.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, I hate that thing worse than you do.
Understandable.
Yeah, I do. I don't know, but everything I can think about it is negative. I can't think of
Um,
anything positive.
I'm- I mean, do you have so there's lots of from you, there's lots of great memories from, the concerts, keeping back all the crazed women from Elvis. Do you have a favorite, whether it's a concert story or just living life with Elvis? What was your favorite memory?
Oh, my favorite memory has to be
Mhm.
the concerts in Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
Uh, that was the first time I ever heard Elvis perform live.
Okay.
Was at a concert at Lake Tahoe. By the way, I used to live in Lake Tahoe. I lived there for about 4 years because for 15 years um, after Elvis, I was a dealer and a pit boss at various casinos around the state of Nevada. And they pronounce it, by the way, Nevada instead of Nevada.
Okay.
And they're pretty picky about it. But nevertheless, uh, the I had the reason why I went there is Elvis wanted me to bring up something. I forget some piece of jewelry or something that he wanted me to bring up to the lake for him. They were
Mhm.
already there and appearing. So I went up. I got there late at night. At about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I think it was, right after the second show. And I deliver my object, and then I was going to, catch a plane or try to catch a plane and get on home. And Elvis said no. Told Joe just give me a room and stay over. And I hadn't brought any clothing or any toilet articles or
Mhm.
anything because I just was going to deliver the stuff and go on home. But so I stayed, and then the next day, Joe took me out and bought me some clothes and got me some toilet articles. We got a nice date for a few days, but
Mhm.
then I saw the first concert, that I ever saw. I was just flat blown away
Wow.
because you know when somebody sings a song and you hear it on the radio, TV, wherever, that song is managed. You know, it goes through studio that fixes it and adds stuff and detracts stuff and fixes the high notes and fixes the low notes, and
Mhm.
the finished product is basically flawless. And what what hit me is that Elvis in person was just like a finished product. I
Um,
mean, he was absolutely amazing. And his command of the stage was incredible. I mean, I was thunderstruck. I mean, I really was. And that was when I became a fan for the first time. Because
oh,
prior to that, I was not a fan. I mean, I
okay.
grew I grew up in early, 40s and 60s, 50s,
Mhm.
and I was a Fats Domino and Chuck Berry
Okay.
fan, like that. I knew of Elvis.
Mhm.
I kind of liked his music, and his movies were, it's okay with me. But I never was a fan until that particular moment when I actually saw him perform live for the first time. It was incredible.
Wow.
And for those of you who have never had the opportunity to see Elvis perform in person, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
'cause you missed out on something pretty unique and pretty amazing. Because, bottom line, and I'm not trying to stroke you here, but Elvis Presley was the greatest entertainer that ever lived,
And we
period.
can, oh yeah, I think we all can agree on that one.
There'll never be another one.
Nope.
In fact,
Mm-mm.
we had that discussion,
Okay,
Elvis.
okay.
He wondered why. Why me?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that he was unbelievably famous and
Mhm.
unbelievably popular. I mean, he knew that. He wasn't stupid.
Mhm.
And he would occasionally wonder, why me? Why pick me? And I mean, he's asking me this question and he wants me to give him an answer. I said, hell, Elvis, I don't know. I don't know, maybe it's the good Lord decided that uh, it was you
Mhm.
uh, because of all the incredible good happiness that you have brought to so many millions of people.
Mhm.
And I said, frankly, Elvis, 100 years from now, nobody will know my name, but everybody will know yours.
Um,
And here we are 50 years into it down the road.
mhm.
And I think I'm right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% right. Well, I think we'll get started on like our little Q&A. I think I'm going to start off right off the bat. You're mentioning concerts. Now, in the book, you all did mention, and I believe it was you specifically, mentioned the concert in College Park, Maryland in 1974. So my grandmother actually went to his concert, College Park, Maryland, September 27th, 1974. Now,
Wow.
she doesn't tell me a whole lot about that date, and I can't get a whole lot of information from her. But could you tell me what it was like? Do you remember anything from that day?
Yeah, what I remember is Sonny coming back to join us on tour. See, Sonny went ahead normally on a on a normal tour. He went ahead. He was the advance guy with along with the colonel, and Sonny would set up all of um, the local police that we would hire for every
Mhm.
gig. and would set up the various routes that we would travel, from the airport to the hotel to the venue to back and all of that. And also the hiring of the local police was pretty important.
Mhm.
Um, Remind me to tell you about the San Diego chicken later on. So you're already
Okay.
laughing, right?
Yeah.
But in any event, at College Park, Maryland, is when Elvis, as Sonny joined us on the tour,
Mhm.
and he went in to say hi to Elvis. And when I came out, and when Sonny came out of the room where Elvis was and joined me, and I forget who else was there, Sonny was crying,
Mm.
big old tears coming down his eyes. And I went, "What?" And he just looked at me and couldn't believe what Elvis looked like. And it just tore him up. And that's what I remember of College Park, Maryland, plus leaving the imprint of my fist in the wall,
Oh,
still there
I'm gonna have
at,
to scope that out then.
at that hotel.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. It gives me a little bit more information about that one day. I know I still have, and it's like right up here, I still have her original ticket from that day.
Oh,
So
really?
it's always very special to me, yes. So that's
It's
why,
probably worth $5 or $10. You could.
well, that's about what she paid for it back then. It was $10 back then, if anybody's curious, when Elvis concert was. All right. Does anybody else, I know there's quite a few that probably have questions. Does anybody have questions? All right. Catherine, you got a question.
Hi. So when you finished writing the book and it like came out and you saw it, what was your first like thought about it and your reaction? And do you regret like autographing 150 of them?
My first reaction,
Yeah.
uh, astounded and angry, totally pissed off, if you really want to know, because we were screwed and screwed royal. And that's when it really hit me how badly we were used. And we were naive. We didn't know. We believed the writer and the producer and the publishers when they assured us of the content would be balanced. And when we read the final product for the first time, actually, it was already a done deal, and there was nothing that we could do. And uh, all of the hatred I get today, and I still get them. I got one today, as a matter of fact. A couple of them, people who um, don't understand why the book was written in the first place. And in the second case, they don't understand that we really didn't write it. Thirdly, they're ignorant folks who are hating on a man that they don't know.
Diane, you're
Yeah,
next.
still trying to decide which one to ask. But
Okay.
hi Dave.
Hey,
Someone in I'll just read from the chat. So
Okay.
someone in Elvis's inner circle had to be sneaking Elvis his pills. Like somebody had to be. Do from those other doctors, not Dr. Nick. Do you have any suspicions as to who that would have been?
now, which person or persons was supplying?
Yeah,
Other-
like
other-
somebody in the inner circle, Elvis's inner circle had to have been doing that. Like Elvis couldn't have been getting them himself, right?
Of course, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, other people had to be bringing in the feel-good drugs. There were three different kinds of categories, if you will. There were the drugs that Elvis took for that were legitimate, for legitimate ailments. I mean, I take drugs today. I take heart medications and stuff. My doctor prescribes them for me. Well, that's class number one. Well, Elvis already also took other drugs that were basically feel-good drugs, you know, cocaine and Dilaudid and stuff like that. And those drugs were brought in by people that were the closest to him. Couple of members of the group of the, you know, the backup singers, and the most insidious of all is members of his own family, and I'll name them as the Stanley brothers.
Mhm.
David Stanley bragged to me about a year ago that he would get Elvis, you know, some of the goody drugs, and Elvis would buy him a car.
Mm.
Mm.
Interesting. Interesting.
That
I hadn't
was
thought
the
about that.
well. Needless to say, I am not overly fond of the Stanleys.
Neither am I. So we're on the same
But
page.
you know, the other topic is you know, I alluded to this earlier. You know, if a member of your family had a drug problem, you do everything in your power to help, wouldn't you
Absolutely.
know?
Mhm.
Well, Vernon Presley of all of them certainly knew that Elvis had an epic drug problem because he's the one that paid the bills. And to my knowledge, Vernon never raised a finger to try to help his son.
Yeah, that's sad.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right, Hetza, what was your
Hi.
question?
So my question, hi Dave, nice to meet you.
Hi.
My question is, so I understand that you were kind of understandably upset and hurt after you'd gotten fired for the reasons that you sort of laid out for us before. And I'm sure that you felt some resentment towards Elvis for a little while. I'm just wondering if any of that resentment maybe channeled itself into the stories that you told or chose to tell for the recordings that led to then the book. I know a lot was sensationalized. And then I guess I'm wondering too if you still have any hurt or like resentment towards him still after this time.
Well, I really don't know how to answer that except in general terms. You know, I don't particularly care to hear somebody call me, you know, evil, vile names that are,
Right.
you know, nobody does. I don't like that. But I have a family, and they hear those words too. So that's where my resentment lies. I'm a big boy.
Yeah.
You know, I say what I say, and I stand up, you know, for what I said, and good, bad, or indifferent. You know, it's my heat, and if negatively comes my way, then it comes my way. But think about it, you know, back in those days, we got 40,000 hate letters, 40,000 of them. my 11-year-old daughter and 12-year-old daughter had nothing to do with that.
I guess does what I suppose what I'm asking too is if looking back now, if any of that hurt you felt at the very end, like understandably so, um, maybe like tainted some of those earlier positive memories, or are you kind of able to still think of the positive memories and also be like, what happened at the end was a crock of shit?
Um, yeah, I function very well. I'm on very I do various projects. You know, I'm 86 years old, and I don't know many people my name are doing the stuff I do. You know, I just signed a contract for a 6-day appearance in Memphis. You know, for Elvis Week. In addition to that, I'm going to be at the Holiday Inn. You know, at the same time, um, telling my stories, meeting the fans, and just selling the crap out of my books and magazines,
Yeah,
or trying to anyhow. You want to hear about the San Diego chicken?
I do want to hear about the San Diego chicken. I feel like everybody else is going to want to hear about it.
Everybody asked about that. Oh, okay, the San Diego chicken.
Okay.
Um, you know, everywhere we went, we would hire local police officers
Hmm.
to help us with security for a number of reasons. One, they knew the city well, a lot better than we do. We didn't know. They knew all the best routes, and they knew all the best restaurants too. So anyhow, we would hire them. But in San Diego during those days, police officers were not allowed to moonlight. They have a second job. They couldn't do that.
Mhm.
So we hired a bunch of uh, um, rent-a-cops, they call them. I don't like that definition. You know, they're private security
Yeah.
people. And I would instruct those people what their job was. I say,
Mhm.
"Hey, here's your job. It's in front of the stage. If you see somebody jump up and try to, to run to the stage, just jump in front of them and, and try and stop them, but don't hurt them. Don't take anybody down. Don't do anything like that. Just try to stop them. If they get past you, just let them go and we'll take care of them, from the stage, because that's what our job is.
Mhm.
Now, that worked perfectly, except San Diego. I don't know what it is about San Diego, but in any event, San Diego has a baseball team called the Padres. And like every baseball team, they have a mascot. And the mascot for the Padres was a guy dressed up in a giant chicken suit. I
Okay.
mean, and he was world famous. This guy was incredible. He was funny. He was hilarious. He would dress up and anyhow, concert's going on. The band is waiting. Elvis is singing this upbeat song. We're just having a great time. And all of a sudden, Elvis just stopped singing. And he looks up in the audience uh, and he says, "It's a chicken. It's a fucking chicken." Hmm? Excuse my English.
You're fine.
And sure enough, there he was up in up in the stand, just dancing away. Anyhow, that's the San Diego chicken. Now
I've
you had to
never.
really be there to understand how funny that was. But funnier still was Elvis would imitate the chicken for months. He would do
Really?
it, jump up on a table and imitate the chicken, doing stuff. It was hilarious. But a companion
Mhm.
story story to San Diego, I think is the Lady Ninja story. Yeah.
Okay.
Here we
I've
are.
never
Now
heard of
you know
these.
the situation in San Diego, right?
Okay.
So the concert's going on, and I see this girl jump up from the audience, and she's coming, and she's determined. You can tell, you know, who's for real and who's not, but she's determined. And this poor rent-a-cop guy jumps out in front of her and just spreads his arms and his hands, you know, like this, like he's making a snow eagle, you know, in the air.
Okay.
And the girl stops and hesitates for a second, seeing the guy, and then she winds up and she kicks this guy dead in the groin and drops him to a ground in a little ball rolled up, you know, in pain. Now, I immediately fall in love because that's my kind of girl right there.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So she hesitates a little bit. She doesn't know what to do. She's kind of shocked. And she starts around the guy again, and she sees me. And I'm standing on the stage like about 3 feet away from her. And that's
Okay.
the first time she notices me. So she hesitates, stops, you know, and I said, come on. And she doesn't want to believe me. But I continue, come on. So there's a chair down there that the guards would sit on, you know, right?
Mhm.
So she starts to step up on the chair, and she's like hesitating again because she doesn't trust me. Like every woman I ever met in my life, she doesn't trust me. so, so anyhow, I help her up on stage and let her go, and off she goes, jumping on Elvis in the middle of the stage, and she gets a scarf and a
Gosh.
kiss. And by this time, Red gets a hold of her from the other side and drags her off and, you know, puts her off the stage.
Oh my goodness. I've
That's
never heard these stories.
San Diego, baby.
Something about San Diego. Okay.
It's in my new book.
Oh, we're gonna have to put that on a list soon. On a very long book list. Oh my goodness. I've never the San
It's
Diego
called the
chicken.
Elvis Experience. I wrote it 6 years
Okay.
ago.
All right, we're gonna have to put that on the list and maybe have you back to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But the San Diego chicken, I've never heard that Elvis story, and I can just picture it clearly in my mind. Just like I'm imagining Elvis, you know, dancing like a chicken.
Did you hear about the mail order brides?
No.
This one is beyond belief. I'm driving to Graceland one day, and I noticed a commotion at the gate. So like twice as many people as normally there, and I see a TV truck driving away. So I drive up to the gate, and so I asked Vester, what's going on? You know, what's the deal? He said, see those 2 little girls right over there? I said, yeah.
Mhm.
Said they just mailed themselves to Elvis. I said,
Okay.
brilliantly, I
Yeah.
said, what? He said, yeah, they just mailed themselves to Elvis. And I'm
Mhm.
just thinking myself, you know, my head. So that 2 girls are standing there.
Mhm.
So I just pointed out, I said, come here, come over here. So they walk over to the car, and they're all like, you know, shy and looking down and everything, you know, and pawing the ground with their foot and stuff. And I said, is that true? Did you guys actually put yourself in a box and mail yourself to Elvis? Did you do that? They went, yes, sir. I said, well, why'd you do that? Well, we wanted to meet Elvis and we couldn't figure out any other way we do it. So we did it that way.
It's
So
clever.
you still want to meet Elvis? They went, yes, sir. I said, get in the car. So they got in the car and I drove around the back of Graceland and parked in my spot. Got out, took the little girls, got into, walked into the back door, walking down the hall. And there's Elvis sitting in a chair in the jungle room watching TV. And I said, hey, Elvis, guess what I got here?
Wow.
And he says, two pretty little girls. And I said, yeah, two pretty little girls. You're never going to believe what they just did. And he went, what'd they do? I said, they put themselves in a box and mailed themselves to you. And Elvis's reply was just as brilliant as mine, because he said the same thing. What? You did what?
Oh my gosh.
And so he said, same thing to the girl that I said. He said, did y'all put yourself in a box and mail yourself to? And I said, yes, sir. So why'd you do that? He said, well, because we wanted to meet you and we couldn't figure out how to do it. So Elvis said, hey, he looked at me and he said, well, it worked. It did work. So,
It did
I
work.
mean, yeah, he gave him a hug and a kiss and, we got him a scarf and he just looked at me and said, get rid of them. So it ended up, one of them actually ended up dating Al Strada for a while.
Okay.
And think about what it took. Put yourself in a box,
Yeah.
claiming you're a dog,
Oh.
and spend $97 to get yourself mailed to an address.
I
Is
hope
that
they
the
weren't
most
going very,
incredible? Is that the most incredible
it
thing?
is. I mean, I hope they weren't going very far. But
No,
that's some brain power.
yeah. They, I actually heard from a friend of one of them just not too long ago. They're still around. They're grandmas now.
Wow.
What do you
And
think
they
they
have
tell their granddaughters about what grandma
that's
did when she was their age?
that's a good story though.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my
Great.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to the end. Maybe does anybody have like one last question before we wrap things up?
Okay.
Diane, you got another question? I know you
Yeah,
have lots of questions.
I can ask one last question.
Okay.
So Elvis seemed to have a very special relationship with each member of the Memphis Mafia. What in particular made your relationship with him unique? Like, what did you do with him that nobody else did?
I think the most important thing was my martial arts skills, number one. But one of the biggest things was that Elvis and I came from the same kind of childhood. Elvis was raised in poverty. We all know that, right? Well, let me tell you about poverty. I was raised along with my four brothers and my mother and father in a four-room apartment in a tenement building that was built in the 1800s and condemned in the 1800s. We had one bathroom, my poor mother, one sink. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a phone. We didn't have a TV. We didn't have hot water. and we certainly didn't have any money. What we did have in abundance was rats and cockroaches. And I promise you, you ain't never lived till you had a rat run across your face while you're trying to sleep. That's my background.
Wow. I'm sure that probably, I think, bonded you and Elvis maybe a little bit more than, say, other members of the inner circle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah, I know that for a fact because he kind of loved that story.
well, I think, okay, maybe one last question. I got one last question I think we're gonna be good. Christy, what was your question?
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Christy. That's my daughter's name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is just totally pure speculation, but earlier you said that you told Elvis when he was alive that 100 years from now everybody would know who he is. But even further than that, just knowing who he is. I would say I'm probably, without a doubt, the oldest person in this book club. And I was 3 when Elvis died. I look at these other people in the chat club and everybody else around him. What do you think, in your opinion, what has kept for decades and decades people, not just fans of him, not that they just like his music or they, respect the fact that he, was in the beginning of rock and roll and all that, but that are absolutely fanatical about him still to this day? I mean, I just asked by show of hands, how many of the people in this chat right now would mail themselves to Elvis if he was still alive to meet him? I mean, people are still people who never met him, who never saw him in concert, who weren't alive at any point when he was alive, decades or were born decades after he was dead. Why are we all so fanatical about him still? What do you think it was about him that holds us all still?
Oh, I think it was a number of things. One, he was unique, one of a kind. And the timing. He came along at a time when, he was like stunning. Nobody acted like that back in those days. Nobody dressed that way. And nobody had the kind of charisma that he had. He was totally different. I mean, according to all of the preachers of the day, he was the spawn of the devil. He's up there obscenely, shaking his hips and everything. I mean, think about it. His first TV appearance, they only shot him from the waist up.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to remember what it was like back in the early 50s. This country, and none of you were around in those days. I mean, I was. I wish the 60s were back.
Me too.
Me too.
60s and the
Yeah,
70s.
I'd go in a heartbeat.
All that flower power and, Haight Ashbury and.
I would hop into the 50s, and if there were a time machine, I'd be in the 50s tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I miss bell bottoms in a big way.
They're back.
They're back. They're back.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us and talk about the book we just read, talk about Elvis. I will say I really appreciate it and did not expect to hear stories about the San Diego chicken and then the ninja lady. I did not expect that, but I appreciate it so much. I think all of us, we want to hear just another story of Elvis, something that we've never heard before. And you did that for us. And I just thank you so much. I know I'm pretty sure everybody else enjoyed them just as much as I did. Agreed. Before we close out, you mentioned that you were going to be in Memphis during Elvis Week. Could you give us maybe whoever's going to be there, give a little bit more about how they can, get involved?
Yeah, I'm going to be appearing at the old Memphian, the movie theater where Elvis used to rent out.
Mhm.
It's called something different nowadays.
It's the Playhouse.
Yeah, the Playhouse. Yeah, that's it. Anyhow, I'm doing 7 concerts there during
Wow.
during the day.
Mhm.
Um, the Everybody during Elvis week that like Billy and Joe and the others, they charge anywhere from 70 to like $110 to be at their event and ask them questions. We're charging $45. And 5 of that is for the ticket
Mhm.
that we have to pay. And I've also reduced the price of all of my items that I normally sell. Normally during Elvis week, I sell my books and my magazine. My magazine is a huge hit. I mean, huge.
Mhm.
It's called the Elvis the Kings, the Karate Kings,
Oh.
and it's a 20-page magazine with like 35 original photographs of me and Elvis. And those photographs look like they were taken yesterday, and they're 50 years old. It's
Mhm.
an incredible magazine. I sold 700 of them on tour over in Europe last year.
Oh.
Anyhow, so we're discounting all the items. Normally during Elvis week, I sell my book and my magazines for $40 a piece. Now that I'm discounting everything 25%, so it's like down to $30. And we're thinking that my thinking is I'd rather have volume and a good value for folks instead of ripping them off, because Elvis Week is not cheap.
It's not.
Oh my goodness. It's obscene. Think about it. EPE is charging y'all 1,200 freaking dollars for a mini tour. For Linda to take you to the jungle room and explain
Wow.
how it was put together and how she put it together. $1,200, darling. You know
Mm.
what? I'm sometimes accused of making money off of Elvis. Well, isn't that what EPE does? Of course it is. Every day and in every way possible. That's what they do, to the tune of millions of dollars. And I'm making money off of Elvis? Well, here's the deal. I have every right to market episodes of my life, which is exactly what I do. I market episodes of my life. I don't I don't try to market Elvis stuff.
Mhm.
I market my stuff.
Yep.
And I'm the only damn one who does. That doesn't make me any better than anybody else. I'm not trying to, put myself above anybody, because I'm not.
Mhm.
But facts are the facts. And most folks going to Elvis Week are getting ripped off big time. By the way, I have over 70 videos already done in the can. I'm trying to
Alright.
figure out some way to market them.
Yeah. I mean, if
When I'm
anything, like,
done, See, over the years, I have received thousands and thousands of questions about Elvis.
Mhm.
600 of them have been written down and answered. I got a stack about this big in print.
Mhm.
So I am reproducing about 150 of them um, in video form.
Oh,
And I've already done 70 of them.
cool.
And they're pretty cool. I mean, the stories that I'm telling you now,
Yeah.
they're on those videos.
Well, again, if they're anything like the San Diego stories, I know they got to be great.
Well, if you send me contact information, I
Okay.
can, email information or whatever. I can, well, go to www.thedavehebler.com. That's my website. All of my products are on there. Now, be aware that in the next few days, all of the clothing articles that are up on that thing will be taken away. I don't have any more stock, and I'm not going to restock them. So those will be gone. I'm also reducing the price on all of the items by about 25%. And I got some cool items up there.
Mhm.
I really do, that are pretty darn unique. And because that's how I make a living.
Yeah.
I mean, I live alone by choice.
Mhm.
I do everything myself. And I promise you two things. One, you cannot live on Social Security.
Mhm.
Nobody can.
Nobody, no.
And number two, there are no jobs for 86-year-old guys named Dave. So, in order for me to live, I fortunately, and thank God, have an opportunity to develop some items that are marketable, in the Elvis world. So, and I get invited to do gigs, and I get paid for that. And all in all, that gives me sufficient funds to continue to live my lifestyle. Hopefully, my car won't blow up.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Like again. So,
Well, I definitely encourage everybody to go. We're all about books over here. So I definitely encourage everybody to go pick up a copy of your book. Hopefully we can read that as a group together and again, maybe discuss it in the future if you'd be willing to do that.
yeah,
Like I
sure.
said, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I know I thoroughly enjoy it. I love getting to talk to anybody who knew Elvis and just to give us a little bit more insight into him and his world. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being with you guys.
Well, thank you. It was nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for not being nasty to me.
I mean, I think everybody's got a story, and I feel like there's two sides to every story, and it's fair to listen to everybody in this. All right. Well, thank you, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. I hope everybody
Okay.
has a good night wherever we're morning, I guess. All right. Well, thank you. All
Okay.
right.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye.